In 1968, President Lyndon Johnson made a decision that changed everything. He sold America's most advanced fighter jets to Israel. The Pentagon fought against it. Military advisors warned him, but Johnson pushed it through anyway. Today, as China threatens to steal F-35 secrets and regional powers demand equal access, that single sale has created America's biggest defense dilemma. $50 billion in technology, countless modifications the US never approved, and a strategic headache that keeps Pentagon officials awake at night. What seemed like a simple arms deal became the sale America can't escape from. October 1968. The Middle East was a powder keg, and Israel needed an edge. They came to Washington with one request: 50 F-4 Phantom jets. These weren't just any aircraft. The Phantom could fly twice the speed of sound and carry more bombs than a World War II bomber. It was America's crown jewel. Every government agency said no. The Navy worried it would drain resources from Vietnam. The Air Force claimed American forces needed every plane. The State Department feared it would trigger a regional arms race. Even President Johnson hesitated for months. But the pressure mounted. Israel's ambassador wouldn't back down. American politicians rallied support. Johnson faced opposition to his Vietnam policy and needed allies. The timing couldn't be worse. Or better, depending on who you ask. Then Johnson made his move. He approved the sale of 50 Phantoms to Israel. That decision in 1968 marked the first major American military equipment transfer to the Jewish state. Before that moment, France had been Israel's primary weapons supplier. After it, everything changed. The Phantoms arrived in Israel in 1969, and they immediately proved their worth. Israeli pilots took these powerful machines and pushed them beyond what American engineers thought possible. They flew deep into enemy territory. They challenged Arab air forces and won. They bombed strategic targets that seemed untouchable. If you think America's military support for its allies is crucial, type yes in the comments below. But here's where things got complicated. The sale didn't just give Israel an advantage. It fundamentally transformed the relationship between Washington and Jerusalem. America went from neutral arms supplier to primary military partner overnight. Soviet forces noticed immediately. They deployed fighter units and surface-to-air missiles to Egypt. The arms race Johnson's advisors feared became reality. Moscow wasn't going to let America's ally dominate the skies unchecked. By 1973, when the next major war erupted, Israel relied heavily on those Phantoms. They flew thousands of sorties. They faced the deadliest air defenses the Soviets could provide. On October 7th, the first day of fighting, Israeli Phantoms shot down 7 enemy aircraft before breakfast. They destroyed helicopter-borne commandos attempting to infiltrate Israeli positions. Then the losses started mounting. Syrian forces deployed new SA-6 missiles and ZSU-23 radar-controlled artillery. The combination proved devastating. 6 Phantoms went down in a single day. The invincible American jets suddenly looked vulnerable, and every loss meant more American equipment in enemy hands, ready to be shipped to Moscow for analysis. Fast forward to today, and the problem has grown exponentially more complex. Israel now operates 75 F-35 Lightning II fighters. These aren't just upgraded Phantoms. The F-35 represents the most advanced stealth technology America has ever created. Each plane costs over $100 million. Here's what makes this situation unprecedented. Israel demanded something no other F-35 customer received: the right to modify the aircraft themselves. They wanted their own electronic warfare systems installed. They insisted on using Israeli-made weapons. They required the ability to maintain and upgrade the jets independently. The Pentagon initially refused. Every modification risks compromising the aircraft's stealth profile. Every change could expose classified systems, but Israel persisted. And eventually Washington agreed to terms no other nation received. Other F-35 partners like Norway, Denmark, and Italy watched in frustration. They had invested billions in the program but received fewer privileges than Israel, which paid nothing into the initial development. Israel's F-35I Adir is unlike any other F-35 flying. It carries Israeli-made missiles in its internal weapons bay. It features homegrown electronic warfare equipment. And here's the part that really stings. Israel maintains a 90% readiness rate with their F-35 fleet. 35 of 39 aircraft mission-ready at any given moment. They achieve this even during high-intensity combat operations. Meanwhile, the U.S. Air Force struggles to keep half their F-35s flying. America's readiness rate sits at 51%. The most expensive fighter program in history and the country that built it can't maintain it as well as a nation with just a few planes. How did this happen? Israel negotiated the right to bypass America's centralized logistics system. They built their own infrastructure. They trained their own technicians. They stockpiled their own parts. American F-35s sit waiting for components that take months to arrive. Israeli F-35s get repaired and returned to combat in days. But the biggest regret might still be coming. Right now, Saudi Arabia wants to buy F-35s. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman views it as essential for his country's defense modernization. President Trump supports the sale. It could be worth tens of billions of dollars to American defense contractors. The Defense Intelligence Agency just issued a classified warning. Selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia could give China access to America's most sensitive aerospace technology, not through a dramatic heist, but through Saudi Arabia's expanding security partnership with Beijing. China already helps Saudi Arabia build ballistic missiles. Chinese engineers work in Saudi defense facilities. The kingdom signed a defense pact with Pakistan, a country deeply embedded in Chinese military ecosystem. Intelligence analysts fear that Chinese intelligence could access F-35 data through shared workshops or Pakistani engineers rotated through Saudi facilities. This isn't paranoia. China has already stolen massive amounts of F-35 data through cyber espionage. One public case involving aerospace executive Su Bin revealed that tens of thousands of documents on the F-22 and F-35 were compromised. But there's a difference between stolen blueprints and hands-on access to actual aircraft. If Saudi Arabia operates F-35s, Chinese intelligence could compress their development timeline by 5 to 10 years.
Meanwhile, Israel is alarmed. Since the 1960s, American law requires the U.S. to maintain Israel's qualitative military edge over regional adversaries. It's a formal commitment codified by Congress in 2008. Israel must have access to more advanced systems than any Arab country, even friendly ones. Selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia would shatter that principle. For the first time, an Arab nation would possess a fifth-generation fighter equal to Israel's most advanced aircraft. The technological advantage that has underpinned Israel's security for decades would vanish. Israeli officials aren't categorically opposed. They've told the Trump administration they could accept F-35 sales to Saudi Arabia under one condition: full normalization of diplomatic relations. Saudi Arabia would need to recognize Israel, establish embassies, and integrate into the Abraham Accords framework. But Crown Prince Mohammed isn't ready for that step. He faces domestic political constraints. He needs firmer U.S. security guarantees. Trust remains fragile. This echoes the 1968 Phantom sale in troubling ways. Back then, Johnson's administration tried using the aircraft as leverage to push Israel toward peace negotiations. They wanted concessions on missile development. They sought commitments on nuclear weapons programs. It didn't work. Israel took the Phantoms and gave little in return. The jets arrived, the peace talks stalled, and America found itself locked into an arms supply relationship with no exit strategy. History seems ready to repeat itself. Trump wants Saudi F-35 sales to drive Israeli-Saudi normalization. The Pentagon wants guarantees about Chinese technology access. Israel wants to preserve its military edge. Saudi Arabia wants the planes without political strings attached. Everyone wants something different, and the F-35 sits in the middle as leverage, bargaining chip, and potential security disaster all at once. Turkey wants F-35s too. They were originally program partners until disputes over Russian missile purchases got them kicked out. Now they watch Israel operate the jets and feel betrayed. The United Arab Emirates nearly bought 50 F-35s in 2021. They signed agreements and made down payments. Then the deal collapsed over American demands to remove Chinese telecommunications equipment from their infrastructure. The UAE felt the terms were too restrictive compared to what Israel received. Egypt operates advanced F-16s but wants better. Jordan flies older American aircraft and seeks upgrades. Every Middle Eastern nation watches Israel's F-35 fleet and asks why they can't have equivalent access. The 1968 Phantom sale started this dynamic. It established Israel as America's premier military partner in the region. It created expectations of access that other nations now demand. And it put Washington in the impossible position of maintaining Israel's edge while also arming Arab partners against Iran. Meanwhile, adversaries don't stand still. Russia developed the Su-57. China built the J-20 and J-35. Both aircraft incorporate features suspiciously similar to American stealth fighters. The technology lead America enjoyed is shrinking. This creates pressure to develop sixth-generation fighters. But the moment it succeeds, Israel will want access. The pattern established in 1968 continues. Israel requests America's most advanced systems. Washington initially hesitates. Political pressure builds. Eventually, America agrees, often with special terms unavailable to other partners. Some analysts argue Israel earned this relationship through proving itself in combat. Israeli forces face threats American troops rarely encounter. They share valuable combat data from operations. But critics counter that the relationship has become one-sided. They point out Israeli weapons sales to China compromised American technology. They highlight instances where Israeli weapons sales to China compromised American technology. So where does this leave America? Stuck between competing commitments and strategic necessities. The F-35 sales continue because defense contractors need the revenue. Israel gets priority because the political relationship demands it. Saudi Arabia pushes for access because regional balance requires it. And China watches for opportunities. The Defense Intelligence Agency can issue warnings. Congress can demand reviews. Pentagon officials can express concerns, but the fundamental dynamic hasn't changed since Johnson approved those Phantom sales in 1968. Nobody suggests cutting off military sales to Israel. The relationship runs too deep. The commitments are too firm. But there's growing recognition that the current arrangement isn't sustainable. Other allies are watching. If Israel gets special F-35 modification rights, why shouldn't Japan? If Saudi Arabia purchases the jets, why shouldn't Turkey? Each exception creates pressure for more exceptions. The Phantom sale taught one lesson. Once America becomes a nation's primary arms supplier, extracting concessions becomes nearly impossible. The relationship takes on its own momentum. What starts as leverage becomes obligation. The decision President Johnson made in October 1968 seemed reasonable at the time. Israel faced threats. The Phantom was available. American interests aligned with Israeli security. 57 years later, that sale looks different. It established a pattern that constrains American freedom of action. It created expectations that complicate relations with other partners. And it set precedents that now apply to far more sensitive technology than anyone imagined in 1968. The F-35 represents everything the Phantom was, and more, exponentially more capable, more expensive, more classified, and more central to American military strategy. Yet the same dynamics that governed the Phantom sale apply to the F-35. Israel wants the best. America provides it. Other nations demand equal access. And somewhere in Beijing and Moscow, adversaries work to close the technology gap however they can. Nobody calls it regret officially. But late at night, when Pentagon officials review classified intelligence assessments about Chinese espionage and regional proliferation risks, some of them probably wonder what would have happened if Johnson had said no in 1968. The answer is unknowable. History took the path it took, but as America navigates an increasingly complex world where technology advantages erode faster than ever, the costs of that 57-year-old decision keep compounding. If this deep dive into military history opened your eyes, Hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories about the decisions that shaped our world.